Hello everybody, Joel here from Golf Monthly. I hope you're well. As you can see, I have the new Wilson Staff Cortex Driver here in my hands, and I've been testing it over the last few days and give you my verdict on its performance. But for those of you who aren't aware, this driver is the product of the TV show Driver vs Driver 2. It's where Wilson Staff allow budding engineers and designers to submit their driver designs and pitch them to a panel of judges, which this year included Golf Monthly top 25 coach Rick Shields. Pitched their designs to them. A certain number progressed through the various different episodes. There were 7 episodes in all, to the eventual winner, which was the Cortex, which I have in my hand. It was designed by a guy called Evan Hoff, who said it was inspired more by motorcycle design, and we'll come on to a bit about the design in a second, but he's the guy who designed it. He won a $250,000 cash prize as well, so I think you'll agree he's done well for himself, and this is the product of his work. The premise of the actual driver club head is more of a cage structure, so there's a metal structure here within the head that houses numerous carbon fibre plates. In fact, 44% of this driver head is made up of carbon fibre, and obviously that allows Evan and the various Wilson engineers to position the weight exactly where they want it within this club head. The carbon fibre is very obvious on the crown. You've got that kind of pleated effect on the crown, obviously elements on the sole as well. We also see on the sole some different adjustability systems here. So we've got a track which houses an 8-gram weight, which you can move from the front of the club head all the way to the back. We've also got 2 adjustable sole weights here, so an 8-gram and a 2-gram weight. You can switch those around depending on your preference. It says here neutral in the toe, so if you put the heavier weight in the toe section, that's actually a neutral ball flight. Switch it around, put the 8-gram weight in the heel, that's going to give you more draw bias. So that's the technology involved in this driver. Before we dive into the numbers and how I went about testing this driver, let's talk about the looks of this driver, because it is very important. I think this driver's got an awful lot of shelf appeal. Visually, it's a fantastic looking driver. It looks really cutting edge. Lots going on the sole that really draws your eye, some nice red colours in there. And down at address, this is one of the better looking drivers on the market, in my opinion. You know, it's nice and clean, simple, very easy to align because you've got a kind of lighter coloured face, especially when the sun's shining on it, compared to the carbon fibre crown. Very simple, no gimmicks, a small kind of alignment mark there on the front of the crown. It sits really square down behind the ball. I just think it's got a nice shape to it. It's a very neutral, almost kind of traditional in shape, but you can see the carbon fibre on the crown. There really isn't much to dislike about the looks of this driver. It really does get a 10 out of 10 for me in terms of the looks. Now, I tested this driver a couple of times yesterday at Foresight Sports HQ on the GCQuad launch monitor using premium golf balls, and I've been sent this driver in the Fujikura Atmos Tour Spec 6 in stiff, which is around about 65 grams, so perhaps not quite as heavy as the driver I currently play, which is around 70 grams, and not quite as stiff in profile either. So this wasn't custom fitted for me. Obviously samples are fairly limited at this early stage. I think actually this driver has only been sold in limited quantities, and I tested it in a variety of different lofts and moving the weights around to show you exactly how effective they are. So let's dive into the numbers we got on the launch monitor to assess the performance of the new Cortex driver. Right, so let's dive into the numbers that we got on the GCQuad launch monitor with the Wilson Cortex. You can see I started testing it in 9 degrees with the neutral weight setting and the low track setting. So that's the kind of position where I'd expect to get the most amount of distance with this driver. And as you can see, the numbers weren't quite what I was hoping for in terms of the launch and the spin. The launch was quite high and the spin was quite high at 2,500. So as a result, ball flight was a little bit too high, peaking at 47 yards and average carry of 262. So not what I was looking for. You can see the strike's pretty good, not exactly central, but okay. So we moved into the 8-degree setting, still in neutral in the low spin position. You can see the ball speed jumped up to 153.3 miles an hour. Launch came down 16 degrees, spin came down to 2,145, which is around about where I really want to be with driver. Average carry of 272 yards. Now, that is pretty much bang on where I normally am with my current driver, the Callaway Rogue. But the caveat to that is that you can see actually the club head speed was up compared to where I normally am. So I've been doing some gym work recently, trying to increase my club head speed. You can see my average club head speed with the Wilson in that setting was 108.3 miles an hour, and the smash was 1.41. You compare it to where I am. This is some data I collected recently with my current driver, my Callaway Rogue driver, and you can see my club head speed is actually down at 106.9, but the smash was up at 1.43. So the club head speed is translating a little bit more ball speed with my current driver than I got from the Wilson Cortex. So you can see I was getting similar carries, 272 on average, but I wasn't being rewarded for my extra club head speed compared to my current driver. So it's just something to think about. Generally the numbers are pretty good. You can see got some pretty long shots out there, one at 280, which was a nice high bomb, slightly high in the club face, really took the spin off it. You know, this driver does have the potential to send it out there. Let's face it, no one makes a bad driver these days, and the Wilson Cortex is a very impressive offering. Forgiveness was a difficult one to tell. You can, looking at the strikes, they were all pretty central. There's a couple out there on the toe, and there were some shots that didn't quite carry as far as I was hoping. You know, you've got one shot here at 268. Admittedly, you know, the face is slightly open there, so that might be a reason, although the strike was pretty central. You know, it's difficult to tell exactly how forgiving a driver is. Maybe this is lacking slightly, but of course you have the adjustable weights there to make the driver more forgiving if you want to. So if I wanted more forgiveness, I could move that sliding weight back, get a little bit more spin, get a little bit more control. This is in the maximum distance setting. I did test the other settings of this driver to see if I was going to get any change in launch conditions in the different settings. I remember with the Triton driver, which won the last year's competition, there was 2 sole plates that you could adjust, and when I changed them, I didn't experience any difference in the launch characteristics of the driver, which was disappointing. But you can see when I moved it into the draw position, I did get a reduction in my miss to the right. You can see my average dispersion in the neutral setting was nearly 16 yards to the right, and in the draw setting it was 6 yards. So generally speaking, you can see, looking at the range view, those green shots there were more shots to the left compared to the blue, which is the neutral setting, which are all to the right. So the draw bias does work. And then I did try the high setting as well, so moving the weight to the back to see if you do get an adjustment in the launch and the spin, and you can see it went up by around about 150 RPM in that high position, although the launch actually will stay the same, exactly 16 degrees compared to 16 degrees in the low setting, and the ball flight 42 peaking compared to 41, so slightly higher ball flight. Not for me in terms of, that's not what I would want to experience with my driver, but if you're someone who hits the ball low and you want a bit more control, a bit more spin, a bit more forgiveness, moving that weight back will make this driver a bit more user-friendly. The other thing to talk about with this driver, I'm just going to put the iPad down now for a second, is the sound and feel of this driver. Now, it's an interesting one because it does feel very solid, very stable, but it does have quite a loud sound that reverberates for quite a long time. It's not something I didn't like. I actually quite enjoyed hitting this driver. When I hit it on the range today, I was really impressed with the ball flight that I got with it in my preferred setting. It was strong, it was quite high, but it was quite penetrating. You can see there wasn't much spin on there. It was carrying very impressively and very stable as well. Even on off-centre hits, it did actually feel pretty stable. I just think it's quite loud. I think there's going to be some golfers that perhaps prefer more of a thud, more of a shorter, quieter sound to their driver. But if you want to turn a few heads, I think the Cortex is going to do that. Just one more thing to mention about the adjustability. You have that green means go hosel adjustability, which is really simple. You haven't got to take the head off. You can just twist it while it's in place and choose your desired loft setting. There's some draw settings on there as well. The sliding weight is really quick and easy to adjust. You loosen it, move it, tighten it back. Very simple. The 2 sole weights, when you're moving those around, it is quite a fiddly process. I won't bore you with the full video of me adjusting the 2 weights and switching them around, but it does take quite a long time. They're quite fiddly to do. Take it out, you have to hold onto it, loosen the other one, move it over, tighten it. It's just very fiddly and a bit time consuming, but obviously once you've found your desired weight setting, you haven't got to change it again. So it's just something to think about when adjusting this driver. But generally, I was really, really impressed with what this driver offers golfers. It's got the potential to really maximise distance for you. It feels really solid, very stable. Lots of adjustability there to fine tune your ball flight, and most importantly, it looks great. Down by the ball, this is one of the better looking drivers on the market. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed that review. Hopefully it's given you an idea about what this new Wilson Staff Cortex driver is going to offer. Comes in at £399, I think, so considering the where driver prices are going these days, they're bordering up on that £500 mark. You're going to save a few pounds with this driver, and really you're not really sacrificing a great deal. I recommend you give it a go. But for now, from Burley Park Golf Club here in Stamford, it's goodbye.